At 4:18 a.m. on February 14th, 2024, Marcus Chen stood beside a semi-truck loaded with 416 beehives near Bakersfield, California, watching his GPS tracker show 2,840 hive deliveries completed across the Central Valley, while needing 12,000 total placements within 72 hours before 1.3 million acres of almond trees reached peak bloom and the narrow 7-day pollination window closed. But his lead driver had just called reporting a jackknifed truck blocking Highway 99 near Fresno, creating 4-hour delays for 28 trucks carrying 11,648 hives, worth $2.3 million that needed placement in northern orchards, before bloom percentages exceeded 40% and pollination effectiveness dropped by 60%. 52 years old, commercial beekeeper coordinating the world's largest managed pollination event, operating 48,000 hives across California's almond bloom, requiring the synchronized movement of 2 million colonies into 1.3 million acres during a biological window so precise that 24-hour delivery delays meant crop failure for growers paying $200 per hive for pollination services, generating $600 million in annual revenue for beekeeping operations and $4.8 billion in almond production, depending entirely on insect biology synchronized with industrial agriculture. Standard procedure said reroute delayed trucks through alternate highways, accept 6 to 8 hour delivery extensions, and hope bloom timing remained favorable despite logistics failures. Chen had 680 grower contracts requiring hive placement by 8 a.m. today. Bloom forecasts showing 38% flower opening across northern orchards, accelerating to 55% by tomorrow afternoon. And pollination effectiveness data proving that hives placed after 40% bloom achieved only 62% of optimal nut set versus hives placed at 20 to 35% bloom. He called his dispatch coordinator and his backup driver network simultaneously. They'd split the delayed convoy, send half through mountain routes, adding 90 miles but avoiding the highway closure, and deploy emergency placement crews working through daylight hours to complete contracted deliveries before biological timing destroyed pollination success that no amount of beekeeping expertise could recover. California's Central Valley Almond Bloom operates as the world's largest coordinated pollination event. 1.3 million acres of almond orchards producing 80% of global almond supply through managed pollination requiring 2 million beehives transported from across North America, positioned in orchards at precise densities of 2 to 3 hives per acre, and synchronized with a 14 to 21-day bloom period where white blossoms open in temperature-dependent sequences, creating narrow windows when honeybee activity overlaps with flower receptivity. Every February, commercial beekeepers coordinate the movement of colonies from Florida, Montana, North Dakota, and Texas, trucks traveling 1,500 to 2,500 miles, hauling 400 to 500 hives per load, delivering bees to specific orchard locations based on bloom forecasting models predicting flower opening percentages, and managing bee populations depleted by winter losses and varroa mite infestations to meet pollination contracts paying $180 to $220 per hive for 4 to 6 weeks of service. This is agriculture operating as biological logistics, where insect health determines crop success. Transportation delays cost millions in lost pollination effectiveness, and the entire system depends on synchronizing honeybee foraging behavior with almond flower biology across timing windows, measured in days where early or late placement creates systematic crop failures that growers cannot overcome through any other intervention. Marcus Chen learned commercial beekeeping from his father, who established the pollination operation in 1994 when California almond acreage was expanding from 480,000 to 1.3 million acres, creating unprecedented demand for managed honeybee colonies. His father had operated 8,000 hives, trucking them from Central Valley to almond orchards each February, then moving to apple pollination in Washington and blueberry pollination in Oregon, across a seasonal migration pattern following bloom calendars. Chen expanded in 2008, increasing to 48,000 hives. Developed year-round contracts with Blue Diamond and Wonderful Company growers requiring guaranteed hive placements at specific bloom stages, and invested $840,000 in GPS tracking systems, refrigerated bee transport, and colony health monitoring technology. But pollination sophistication created new vulnerabilities. When highway accidents or bee population collapses disrupted logistics, contracts with zero tolerance for delivery failures imposed penalties that seasonal beekeeping operations never faced. The semi-truck fleet Chen operated cost $3.2 million to assemble across 2018 to 2022. Each truck hauled 416 hives stacked on pallets, traveled at maximum 55 miles per hour to prevent colony stress from vibration, and required climate control maintaining 45 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit during transport, preventing bees from activating and consuming stored honey. The logistics system coordinated 68 trucks moving 28,288 hives simultaneously, positioning colonies in orchards across a 280-mile stretch of Central Valley within 96-hour windows determined by bloom forecasting models tracking accumulated chill hours, degree days, and flower bud development. The system worked when highways remained clear and bee populations maintained contracted strength levels. When traffic incidents or colony losses disrupted timing, the entire coordination collapsed. The economics were contract-dependent and timing-sensitive. At pollination rates of $200 per hive for 48,000 colonies, Chen generated $9.6 million in gross revenue from almond bloom services, transportation costs, including diesel, drivers, and equipment, $1.68 million. Hive maintenance and feeding operations, $2.88 million. Colony replacement for winter losses, averaging 32%, $1.92 million. Insurance and permits, $340,000. Emergency logistics and backup systems, $180,000. Total costs, $7.0 million against $9.6 million revenue, leaving $2.6 million operating profit. After equipment depreciation, actual net income around $1.42 million. But if delivery delays caused hive placements after 40% bloom, reducing pollination effectiveness by 38%. Growers could invoke contract penalties of $80 per hive for late delivery, affecting estimated 11,648 delayed hives. $931,840 in penalties that consumed 66% of projected annual profit. And the difference between full profit and penalty-reduced earnings was maintaining 72-hour delivery windows across 280 miles of highway logistics, subject to accidents, weather, and equipment failures Chen couldn't control. At 5:40 a.m., Chen had coordinated the convoy split. 14 trucks would continue on Highway 99, waiting for the accident clearance, estimated by 8 a.m. 14 others would detour through Highway 198 and mountain routes, adding 90 miles in 3 hours, but bypassing the closure entirely. The detour trucks would arrive at northern orchards by 2 p.m. Late, but still within acceptable bloom timing, if flower opening remained below 42%. The Highway 99 trucks risked arriving after 4 p.m., when bloom percentages might exceed 45%, triggering contract penalties. His daughter Lisa arrived at 6:20 a.m. to help coordinate the emergency placement logistics. 36 years old, holding an entomology degree from UC Davis, she'd worked the operation for 11 years while recognizing that commercial beekeeping had evolved from agricultural service into precision biological logistics requiring expertise in insect physiology, transportation management, and contract law that had nothing to do with traditional beekeeping skills. Lisa tracked data showing commercial beekeeping operations consolidating from 420 nationwide in 2010 to 180 in 2024, with average operation size increasing from 12,000 to 38,000 hives. Small beekeepers were disappearing as almond pollination contracts and transportation infrastructure requirements created barriers favoring either large operations with backup logistics capacity or complete exit from commercial pollination. Dad, we're splitting convoys through mountain routes not designed for bee transport. If trucks encounter delays or breakdowns in remote areas, we'll miss bloom windows entirely. That's the choice. Accept Highway 99 delays and guaranteed contract penalties, or risk mountain routes with potential for worse outcomes, but also potential for on-time delivery. Then maybe we've built a system with no failure tolerance. Large operations running 100,000-plus hives have redundant transportation fleets and can absorb single convoy delays. Like we're gambling the entire season on highway logistics with zero backup capacity. Chen understood. His daughter was identifying the structural vulnerability. Mid-sized commercial beekeeping operations had invested in transportation adequate for normal conditions, but lacked the redundancy and capital reserves to handle highway accidents during pollination windows when timing determined contract compliance. By 11:40 a.m., the mountain route convoy had encountered unexpected conditions. 3 trucks had reduced speed to 35 miles per hour, navigating steep grades with heavy loads, extending arrival times to 4 p.m., exactly the timing threshold where bloom percentages became critical. The Highway 99 trucks had cleared the accident scene by 9:20 a.m. and were making better time than projected, with estimated arrivals at 1:30 p.m. Chen's gamble on the detour was backfiring. The supposedly faster route was delivering late, while the delayed original route was recovering. Bloom condition reports from growers showed northern orchards at 39% flower opening as of 10 a.m., with temperatures forecasted to reach 68 degrees Fahrenheit by 2 p.m. Conditions that would accelerate bloom to 44 to 46% by 4 p.m. The Highway 99 trucks would arrive during optimal conditions. The mountain route trucks would arrive after bloom exceeded optimal timing. At 1:45 p.m., Chen made the decision to redeploy. The mountain route trucks showing delayed ETAs would be redirected to southern orchards, where bloom timing ran 2 to 3 days behind northern sections. Contracts there specified placement by 6 p.m. today. The southern growers would receive hives originally contracted to northern orchards, and northern growers would receive late penalty hives from the Highway 99 convoy arriving after bloom exceeded 40%. The logistics swap would distribute penalties across fewer contracts rather than concentrating them on mountain route hives arriving catastrophically late. The redeployment coordination required 2.4 hours of phone calls, GPS rerouting, and contract modifications. By 4:20 p.m., all 28 trucks had completed deliveries. 14 Highway 99 trucks delivered to northern orchards at 37 to 41% bloom. Acceptable timing for 11 contracts. Marginal for 3 contracts showing bloom at 41%. The 14 mountain route trucks delivered to southern orchards at 32 to 35% bloom. Optimal timing meeting all contract specifications. Final pollination season economics after the highway crisis. Contract penalties applied to 3 northern orchards receiving hives at 41% bloom. $80 per hive across 1,248 hives, totaling $99,840 in penalties. Emergency logistics coordination and mountain route fuel costs added $28,400 in expenses. Combined crisis impact, $128,240 in penalties and additional costs. Net income, $1.29 million versus projected $1.42 million. A 9% reduction from a single highway accident during a critical 6-hour window. Marcus Chen continued commercial beekeeping through 2026, managing transportation logistics and colony health while watching margins compress as diesel costs increased 34%, and almond grower consolidation reduced contract negotiating power. In spring 2027, Blue Diamond announced new sourcing requirements. Pollination providers must deliver minimum 80,000 hives annually beginning in 2028. A 67% increase over Chen's current 48,000 hive operation. Meeting the requirement meant expanding colony numbers and investing $2.4 million in additional trucks, equipment, and bee inventory. He met with Lisa in April 2027 to discuss expansion feasibility. The analysis was prohibitive. $2.4 million infrastructure investment against current net income of $1.29 million annually meant 1.9-year payback, assuming zero logistics failures and perfect colony survival rates. Assumptions the highway crisis and typical 32% winter losses had proven unrealistic. Lisa had zero interest in inheriting debt-financed expansion into an industry where processor consolidation was systematically eliminating mid-sized operators through volume requirements. Lisa, we either scale to meet Blue Diamond's minimum and build redundant transportation fleets, or we exit almond pollination and compete in smaller specialty crop markets at $120 per hive instead of $200. Dad, both options depend on buyer terms we don't control. Expansion locks us into Blue Diamond dependency. Specialty markets mean competing without the pollination volume that justifies our transportation infrastructure. Marcus Chen sold his 48,000 hive commercial beekeeping operation to a national pollination corporation managing 240,000 hives across North America in fall 2027. The sale, $185 per hive for established colonies, plus $1.8 million for transportation equipment. Generated $10.68 million gross. After settling debt, Chen netted $5.2 million. Lisa took a position with UC Davis as a pollination ecology researcher, using her entomology education and family beekeeping knowledge to study the colony collapse and logistics systems that had consumed her family's operation. California's 1.3 million acres continue requiring 2 million beehives annually for almond pollination. Coordinating the world's largest managed pollination event through semi-truck logistics, moving colonies from across North America during 14 to 21-day bloom windows where timing determines crop success. The GPS systems track hive movements regardless of operation ownership. The bloom forecasting models predict flower opening regardless of who developed them. The pollination proceeds regardless of which families pioneered the biological synchronization. The industry persists through precision logistics that family operations created, but can no longer sustain profitably at scales too small for redundant transportation infrastructure and volume commitments processors now demand. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us preserve these histories of American agriculture's transformation. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and whether you understand the biological timing pressures crushing specialty agricultural service providers. Thank you for keeping their stories alive.